Hi, welcome to the Improved Garage YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Helps me do things. Today, we're going to be installing a solid-state cache card and upgrading the RAM in the Qnap. So, the Qnap supports something called Q-tier. It also supports something called SSD caching. Q-tier is a process that it uses to automatically determine what data is accessed most or least often and move it to appropriate, whether it's SSDs or spinning disks, and provides a performance advantage. So what we're going to be doing is utilizing this PCI Express SSD card to be expanding the Q-tier on this device and to allow me to not have to use any of my 8 bays for the solid-state disks. While I'm in there, I'm going to upgrade the RAM. So the RAM that comes installed is a single 4 gig stick. You can go up to 16 gigs, which is what I have here. Corsair Vengeance 2666. It supports up to 2666 according to their website. So I've never installed one of these before, so we're gonna figure it out together. Start off, let's grab a screwdriver. Oh, and the SSDs that I'm going to be using are these, I have them already. They're Samsung 960 Pros. They're 512 gigs a piece. We'll try that out, and if I determine that I need more solid state space for caching, then I'll order a pair of 2 terabyte drives or something like that to add at a later date. But for now, it's going to give me a good start. So basically what this is going to do, we're going to take those 2 SSDs, and this is going to create a mirror array, a RAID 1 array. So those 2 disks will have the same data on them. And what that means is if either one of those disks fail, the data will not be lost. And that'll allow me to have 512 gigs of space on my solid state tier. And that will move all of my most access data to that area. Well, not me, but the device. The device will do it smartly. So we have the disk, or the card that I ordered is the QM2 2P244A. There is a part on the Qnap website where you can put in what NAS you have, and it will tell you what cards are compatible with your NAS. And there are a bunch of cards, and there are a bunch of NASs. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install my SSDs to the Qnap. So we've got the card in there. The card can only go in one way. There's a screw that holds it into place. So we'll install the screw, just like that. And we'll do the same thing on the other one. And like I said, these can only go in one way. There's a little key on them. Something to be aware of is these cards, the form factor is called M2. M2 is available as SATA or PCIe, which are called NVMe. So this card is compatible with the NVMe disks. It is not compatible with the SATA disks. There is a different card that would be compatible with the SATA disks. But reasonably, you don't want the SATA disks anyway because the NVMe is significantly faster. So unless you were sitting on a couple of big SATA disks that you wanted to reuse, my recommendation would be that you go for the NVMe, which is a much faster device. So we have our 2 disks installed, and then they give us a whole bunch of heat shrink, or thermal. So install that like that. This doesn't really have any adhesive on it. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's a little sticky, but it's not covered with adhesive. And the main part that you want to cover are the memory modules, which are kind of these 4 rectangles in the back, but they give you enough here that you could easily cover basically the whole disk, so that's what we're going to do. Those just allow heat transfer, and they even give you a little bit more. So now we're going to tighten this heatsink down. Four screws. Make sure that our fan is connected, and then they gave 2 extra screws here, and there are 2 extra spots in the card. So if you had, so NVMe's are available in multiple lengths. The ones that I'm using are 2280s, which is the most common. If you had 22 110s, you would use these further back holes. So what I'm going to do is just install these 2 screws in the open holes so that they don't get lost and I don't have to remember where I put them if I ever need them in the future. Alright, so that's installed. Now, this card comes with short length and long length headers. Looking at the back of my chassis, I'm going to need the long ones. You can see the long ones are there, so let's get that long one installed. So we've got 2 screws here in the back that we're going to loosen up. 1, 2, and then we'll put this long one on. Okay, so that's installed. That's what it should look like with the long header on there. The metal plates go on the bottom of the card, screws through the top. So I haven't opened this up yet, so it looks to me like there are 3 screws in the back. 1, 2, 3, and it slides back. That's pretty much how all these types of things open, and then you pull out on the bottom just a little bit. There's some teeth in there, so see the inside. So let's look at what we have here. So there's a single PCI Express slot here. We can see our drive trays, we can see our back plane, and how that connects to the motherboard. There's our power supply and our connectors for that. There's the fans in the back. So it looks really serviceable. There's a lot of room in the back for heat dissipation, big giant fans in the back. So it's pretty cool. I'm impressed with we did a good job building it. It's built well. So we're going to be doing 2 things. We're going to install this card, and then we're going to install the RAM. So on the back here, I'm going to need to, so this is going to take up the top slot. So one thing to be aware of is that there's only 1 slot internally, but there's 2 externally. And the idea there is that some cards are double height, So they would use one slot, but they would take up 2 spaces. So loosen this screw up here. And that is a little tight, but if you use a long screwdriver, you should be okay. And we're going to put our card in. So, card's going to... Oh, let me take that back. I actually needed the bottom slot, not the top one. My bad. So it's the bottom. If you're only using one slot, it's the bottom one. So we're going to take this, we're going to slide it into place. Snaps in just like that. And then we'll put our screw in, tighten it into place. And then we'll take our other cover, which if you watch this video, you don't have to remove. Try to do these things with zero research and to not edit out the mistakes. So, even me taking the wrong card out in there. Now, in this side, we can see our RAM stick, which is right here. So there's going to be a release on both sides. 1, 2. That'll pop out like that. And what's in here is a Kingston single 4 gig stick. DDR4, so we'll put this Corsair in there. You don't need anything crazy, I just happen to have that Vengeance RAM laying around, but you can get standard RAM. It's not a gaming computer. So, that's that. Now what we'll do is we will take the cover and we'll put it back on. So, this is going to go over the top like that. We're going to slide it forward and then like that. And just make sure that you have the bottom tabs in. I've seen before where like you slide it in but these aren't quite clicked in and they end up proud and then you can't get your back screws in. So we'll put our 3 screws in the back. 1, 2, 3. So that's all installed. Okay. Get some of these stickers removed. That's it. It's installed. Everything's cool. And this one I'm going to leave on until I get it up in my rack because that plastic that's behind that's pretty easy to scratch. Oh, there is one on this too. Cool. So I'm gonna go plug this in, power it up, and then we'll log into it. All right, so the device booted up. I'm gonna log into it. And we'll go to storage. So let's see what it shows here. So we see our P1 PCIe M2 SSD, Samsung SSD 960 Pro 512 gig. And P2. So they're both in here. You can see the smart specs on them and how many hours they've been powered on and all of that stuff. That one was 672 days. This one is 654 days. There's 98% life left. And 99% life left. So let's go to Q tier, manage Q tier. So I already created a Q tier with some 2.5-inch SSDs in 2 of my bays because I wanted to mess around with it a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the Q tier, and then we're going to add a new Q tier. So we'll go to storage pool, remove, and manage Q tier storage pool 1. And we will see the Q tier that I made earlier when I was messing around with it, using a pair of 2.5-inch SSDs. So you can see that here, ultra high speed. So we're going to go to storage pool, we're going to remove ultra high speed tier. So that's going to be RAID group 1. This wizard will remove the ultra high speed tier by migrating all of its data to other tiers. The system will then remove the following RAID groups. Next. So it's going to stop my shares from being available while it does that. So we're going to remove RAID group 1. The disk configuration will be RAID group 2. Finish. This may take a few minutes, please wait. Removing SSD tier. 1%. And essentially what this is doing is it's taking all of the data that's in the SSD tier and it's copying it back to the SATA drives, the other spinning hard drives. So this will take a minute. I'll come back when it's done. All right, so it's been about an hour, but we're done removing the Q tier. So if you don't have an existing Q tier, you obviously won't have one to remove. So this would be the same step. So you're going to go to upgrade to Q tier. And it's going to say at least 4 gigs of RAM is recommended when using Q tier. If less than 4 gigs available, auto tiering may affect system performance. Select pool, storage pool 1. It's the only one that I have. Now we want to configure the ultra high speed tier. So we want to do the 2 PCIe cards. There's a little flame next to it to show that it's fast. All right, RAID type is RAID 1, which means it's going to mirror them. And then we're going to do next. And then do we want to enable over provisioning? Yes, it's recommended that you do. And then finish. Some servers will be stopped temporarily. Do you want to continue? Yes. So now it's going to create the Q tier. And this process happens a lot faster than removing it does. Because during the removal process, it has to copy all of the data from the SSDs back to the spinning drives. During this process, it's just enabling Q tier and making it exist, and then it'll work on the calculations and moving files over, later. So, but it is going to have to create the array, the 2 NVMEs in a RAID 1. So it's currently doing that. All right, so finished setting it up. And if we go to manage Q tier now, we'll see that our cache is enabled, our ultra high speed tier. It's already started moving some data over, grade 1, and it's doing automatic data tiering. So now our Q tier is created. We look at our storage pool, see everything here like it should be. It's automatically tiering, it started moving some data, and then we can see if we go back to the disks view that our old SSDs, the 2.5-inch drives, are no longer being used, so those can be removed. So that's it. Thanks for watching.